Combating grooming in early years. More and more children are being groomed each year, with an 82% rise in online grooming cases against children in the last 5 years. This increases our responsibility as early years educators to know what grooming is, to know how it takes place, and know what we can do to protect the children in our care. This is what we'll go over in this video. But first, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel Open Nursery with myself, Kurt Liania, where I support you to open, run and grow your own childcare business. In today's video, we're going over grooming in early years and what we can do to protect the children in our care. This is part of the safeguarding catalogue that you can access on YouTube, which includes videos like what is county lines and the prevent duty, all hoping to support you to have a better understanding of your safeguarding duties in early years. So, what is grooming? Grooming is when a person builds a relationship with a child, young person or adult at risk with the intention that they can abuse them and manipulate them to do certain things. Grooming is a manipulative behaviour that the abuser uses to gain access to a potential victim, to coerce them into agreeing to the abuse and reduce the risk of them being caught. Whilst these tactics are most often used against younger children, teenagers and vulnerable adults are also at risk. It's important to know that grooming is not just for sexual purposes. It can also be used for exploitation, radicalisation, and other criminal exploitation, like county lines. So what is the grooming process? It's important for us to understand and recognise the grooming process so that we are able to identify and intervene early. Grooming can take place online or in person, but usually follows a similar pattern. Firstly, there's the victim selection. The first thing a groomer needs to do is select a victim. Abusers often observe potential victims and select them based on ease of access to them or their perceived vulnerability. So maybe they're more of a quiet person, or they're more isolated from the group that they're in, or potentially they have some learning difficulties that the abuser seeks to take advantage of. The second step is to isolate the victim. The abuser will seek to either physically or emotionally separate the victim from those that can protect them. They'll also seek out positions in which they can have contact with children, teens or young adults. They may also try to have a common interest with the victim or have a common backstory with them to attempt to create an us and them mentality in the victim's mind, making the victim feel that their abuser is the only one that can relate to them. Next, the abuser will try to gain the trust of the potential victim. The child will be conditioned to trust, respect and even love their groomer. Most of the time they do not understand they're being groomed because they see the groomer as a friend. The groomer may also seek to gain the trust of the whole family in order to be left alone with the child, or seek to gain trust of anyone else that works with the child, so that could be you. The abuser could work in your setting and will use similar tactics in order to gain the trust of you and your colleagues. Generally, groomers gain trust by pretending to be someone they're not. So as I said, pretending to have a similar backstory to the child, or pretending to be the same age as the child, or pretending to be the same age as the child, which is easier to do online. By offering advice or understanding, by buying gifts for those involved, which could be for the child, the family, or potentially you as their colleagues, by giving a child extra attention, which they might not be used to, by using their professional position or reputation, or by making a child feel special by taking them out on trips, outings, or holidays. After they gain their trust and potentially the trust of those around them, they then seek to exert their power. Once they've established trust, groomers will exploit the relationship by isolating the child from friends and family and making the child feel dependent on them. Groomers will use power and control to make the child believe that they have no choice but to do what the groomer wants. Groomers may introduce secrets in order to control the child or frighten the child. Sometimes they may try to extort the child or make them feel ashamed or guilty to prevent them from telling anyone about their abuse. And the final stage in the typical grooming process would be an attempt to try and desensitize the child to the abuse in order to convince the child to participate in it. In terms of sexual grooming, this can often start with touching the victim, which may appear harmless to the child. So doing things like hugging, resting or tickling, and then will later escalate to more sexual contact, such as more intimate touching, massaging or even showering together. Abusers may also show children sexual images or discuss sexual topics with them in order to introduce the idea to the child of sexual contact. In other forms of grooming, they will use other forms of abuse in order to desensitize the child and in order to normalize the criminal activities. This may be introducing children to the idea of drugs, so having drugs around them in the house, or by showing them videos of violence and bringing weapons around them. So the process might look like using illegal substances around the child, then convincing the child to use the substances themselves, to then convince the child to then go out and selling those substances. So what are the signs of this abuse that we should be looking out for? It will be very rare, especially with the age of the children that we look out for, that a child will tell us that they're being groomed. There are many reasons why children may not be able to seek help around this area, which includes being unaware that they are actually being groomed, believing that they're in a caring relationship with the abuser, and fears about jeopardizing it, being scared of what the groomer will do if they do speak out, not wanting to get the groomer in trouble, blaming themselves for getting involved in the relationship, and also being ashamed or worried about sharing what's happened to them to other people and worrying about what other people might think. Therefore, it is important for us to be alert and be able to recognize some of the signs that will show that a child potentially is being groomed. Some of these signs include sudden changes in behavior, spending more time away from nursery, having unexplained gifts, using sexual language or displaying sexual behavior, being upset or withdrawn, having sore genitalia or frequent infections, new bedwetting, changes to eating habits, or unexplained marks. Any child can be at risk of being groomed. However, some children are more vulnerable to being abused, and these include looked after children and children known to social care, and those with special educational needs or learning difficulties. In order for us to truly protect the children in our care, it's important for us to understand the key things that have been discussed so far. So hopefully have a better understanding of what grooming is, the typical grooming behaviours, and the signs of grooming being displayed by children. We can also support our children by teaching about healthy relationships, helping them to develop the awareness and skills needed to keep safe online, teaching them how to identify safe places and people, and letting them and their families know how they can get support if they ever feel victimized. Grooming can have detrimental long-term effects on the victim. So if you suspect someone of being groomed, it is imperative that you report your concerns as soon as possible and follow your nurseries or other childcare providers' safeguarding policies and procedures. And as with all safeguarding concerns, if you feel a child is at immediate risk, make sure you contact and refer this to the police. The true extent of grooming in the UK remains unknown as many cases go unreported. The grooming rarely stops there and usually leads to other crimes like sexual abuse or county lines. So you should be aware of how you respond to these as well. If you want more support with your safeguarding knowledge and practice, then check out the playlist that's on the screen now, where we cover topics like county lines and the prevent duty. Click the link now and I'll see you over there. God bless.